At first light, the fields look harmless, stubbled gold under a white sky, until the ground begins to move. Tracks bite, chatter, and a green hull heaves out of dust. The T-34 rocks through shallow ruts, the commander's cupola slit with light, the world framed in blades. Mikhail Karpov leans into the periscope and sees the threat before it has shape. A heat-thickened seam against wheat, the hint of a turret collar gliding. He slaps the breech lever with 2 fingers, his coaxing habit. It refuses. He pulls again. Metal resists metal. The barrel stays black and cold. The delay feels like a crack opening under his boots. He understands at once this duel will have to be won without thunder, and decides before fear can finish its sentence. Katya Orlova, shoulder braced to the breech, does not wait for the order. She cycles by rote, and the lever balks halfway, as if sand were in the joint. Dust from the last sprint clings to every edge. Air tastes of oil and hot linoleum. "Stuck," she says, but the intercom smears it, the TPU-3 coughing under the rising engine. Karpov nods hard, jaw to the throat mic, as if bone could carry command where copper will not. The first shot is no shot. In this heat, silence screams and forces the bluff to begin. Outside, haze turns distance liquid. A crosswind strokes wheat from the west, steady as a metronome, pushing dust and the smell of smoke sideways. Ivan Stepanenko feels it through the cracks around his vision block as a change in taste. He can tell where smoke will go by, where it sits on his tongue. He lifts his left foot, senses the clutch plates feathering under him, and counts in instinct. Only so many tight turns before they scream. The step is flat, then not, folds like cloth, gullies shallow enough to hide a hull if you know them. He glances at the knockout panel's shadow on the floor as if checking the tank's pulse, then chooses to trust the land more than the map. Karpov wastes no second. He makes the failure look like reload. "Katya, hand on the casing!" Loud, crisp, trusting fragments to get through. Germans read rhythm, fire, reload, fire, and he'll feed a lie into that expectation. The loader moves, slamming a phantom round into nothing, gloves squealing on lacquer. She rams the dead lever again, lets the clunk carry through steel, a preparation noise that isn't. A bluff on time can be as large as a gun. He ends the motion with a choice: sell readiness, conceal muteness. The unseen enemy has already chosen his line. Karpov hears him first, the cadence of a Panzer IV gearbox stepping up, the engine note rising and settling, and then sees a pale rectangle of cupola glass, an eye. The long KWK-40 cuts the shimmer, kept front on in doctrinal neatness, a yardstick aimed at where they were, not where they'll be. German confidence has geometry. If their gun cannot speak, he will talk with silhouette and angles. He rides his cupola lip like a ship's captain reading ripples, and decides to write the Germans' next step for him. "Silence on main," Karpov says, voice flat to flatten adrenaline. "We are loud in other ways." No swears into the line. He taps his boot twice on the turret ring, left, then once, forward, because the intercom is already smearing words to mush. Tap code is old training, drilled before Kursk frightened mothers. It will suffice if electricity betrays again. He points through the periscope with his whole arm, realizes the gesture is to himself, and commits to acting unseen. Katya scrubs her sleeve across the Mk4's glass and shifts to spotting. Hands remember the loader's ritual. Eyes relearn distance. At 600 meters, proportions lie. A turret looks nearer than a hull, a ridge flatter than truth. Her right hand trembles. She pins it under the hatch ring, names bearings like tools. 150, then 145. The intercom eats every third consonant, so she taps steel by her knee in threes, then twos, then ones. Wheat heads flick, a darker shape shoulders the horizon. Road wheel pattern flashes, then blurs. She watches the numbers on her mind's clock turn from black to red and swallows the urge to rush. "Gully," Ivan says, or thinks he says. The engine swallows it, and he does not want an answer so much as permission. He mapped this land yesterday at dawn when cattle, not armor, trampled it. 30 seconds ahead, a shallow cut bends like a river, deep enough to drown a hull to the shoulders, not so steep they'll lose a track. If they drop now, they become a problem in the Germans' math. If they wait, they become obvious. He slides the throttle with his ankle and feels the tank surge like a horse toward shadow. The decision leaves him before doubt does. Karpov sees the green-brown run like a smile not to be trusted. He must choose, risk their soft side armor during descent into the cut, or stay high with a mute gun and dare a frontal punch at 100 paces. He feels the crew's breath at his back like a second wind. The idea of winning with second-best tools thrills and terrifies him. "We go down," he says, and hears his voice as if from another turret, already paying for the choice. Ivan angles for the lip, matching the crosswind so their dust trails where he wants, not where the weather commands. He glances at the crescent. His boot heel always gouges in the floor by the clutch, keeps pedal travel short to spare heat on the plates. Wheat heads snap under track like matchstick necks. The edge rises, then falls away. The world gives a short scream as the hull tilts. For 2 seconds, their left side shows west, a turned page. It is a book the German wants to read. Ivan counts 1, 2, and shifts weight to quiet his own fear. Katya counts those seconds by the noise of her blood. "Angle, 18, 17, she calls, the radio making it gully 7, and Karpov is already reacting to numbers she didn't say. The periscope frame trembles. The field of view stutters like a film with missing frames. She rides bumps with knees and shoulders, a human shock absorber. A sweet metallic smoke intrudes, someone else's tank burning beyond the ridge. The wind brings it like a lesson, and she files it as evidence. The day is killing, with or without them. If the main gun is mute, hull smoke is voice. Karpov has to choose when to speak. Drop smoke too early, and the German waits. Too late, and their rear quarter etches itself against white. He watches dust stream along their track guards, judges the wind at 10 to 15 kilometers an hour from the west, imagines the screen sliding sideways the moment it blooms. He tucks the wind into the plan like a shift before a dance step. "Stand by," he says, fingers on the handle, then denies his own urge. Bluff before blind. The Panzer remains disciplined. The long barrel holds true. The commander a small shape in a high cupola, scanning through glass. Doctrine says, gun front, turret steady, push. Aggression gives Karpov a rhythm to play against. Supporting guns hammer elsewhere, but those shells are not for this meadow. Their infantry hug dirt, pinned, unable to distract. The duel narrows to sound and angle, to who misreads first. Karpov hears a gear change, the throttled lag of a heavy machine setting up a climb, and slots the German's choice into his next line. He keeps quiet and moves. Down in the cut, belly low, the world is a ribbon of sky. Light turns from wheat glare to riverbed mutedness. Ivan's hands relax on the tillers despite himself. Down here, they're less seen than inferred. He edges along the bottom, feeling crumbly soil under the right track. Climb too steep and risk a throw. Speed enough to answer a sudden angle, not so much the tracks climb when they should float. The manual's warnings, no pivot turns in heat, count your bursts, sit behind his teeth. He parcels pivots and hears the engine note change under his fingers, a murmur he intends to live by. Karpov resists narrating. Noise is not aid. He taps the ring in a pattern Katya can feel through her knee bone. 2 for left, 1 for forward, 2 for left, meaning ride steel where wires fail. He counts taps like he once counted his father's steps in a dark hall, rhythms that tell if danger approaches or passes. He wants the German to believe in a hard flank flee. He needs that belief to pull the Panzer onto a crest at a crooked angle. He decides to make absence look like retreat. Through a stuttering periscope, the world resolves in slices. Sliver of sky, nothing. Line of clods, smear of smoke blowing sideways. Katya leans until her headset cord tightens against her neck. There's no cordite smell. Their own breech offered none. A flash of German road wheel spokes breaks the mirage, the pattern she learned on a parade ground, now hot with radiation. 143, she says. Karpov answers. Good, making belief sound like fact. Numbers are the only prayer they share. She keeps her right palm flat to still the tremor and refuses the blink heat demands. Ivan feels the bend tighten left. He fights the urge to climb for a peak. A peaking hull is a head into a guillotine. He inches along, letting the lip live at the periphery, giving Karpov enough, never too much. The engine's song is honest. He plays it like an instrument. He knows the plates will matter when Karpov says, now, and saves enough bite for that. He breathes shallow. The cabin has turned metallic and warm, a smell he will always associate with decisions. The German's pressure arrives like weather. Birds lift 2 beats earlier than they would for a cart. Karpov looks for the must in the German's will. Crest with gun ready, turret nearly there, hull square, doctrine says. Hurry, aggression says. The crest says, show belly and regret. Karpov will give him one rule to obey and one to betray. He will time the faint to engine note, the one truth heat can't warp. Hand on smoke. External racks, manual handles, a tug to drop canisters. If he yanks now, the wind will open a window right where their rear quarter wants to hide. He waits for the gear change, the microstall that says the German is setting his climb. Dust hurries along the earth in a sheet, a weather report, nose close. He waits a heartbeat beyond patience, then decides to let the German believe he is right for a second longer. The intercom chooses this moment to die. It smears Katya's bearing into a rasp, then drops. Her mouth moves when the line stops. Engine, track pins, distant booms, everything but voices. She lifts her hand with numbers. The cupola slit makes it ridiculous. Karpov answers with fist to turret wall, twice, then once. Code is a road in fog. He steps onto it. The Panzer's turret turns slow and steady, fronting discipline itself. The long barrel does not twitch. That steadiness is a promise and a weakness. A shallow exit spur appears ahead, steep enough to take a track if wrong, narrow enough to funnel them predictably. The earth smells damper, grass more crushed. Ivan judges the slope at a glance and rehearses a neutral steer burst, short kick, pause, short kick. The clutch gives a little, a sigh, not yet a scream. He tells himself the plates will hold for one lie and readies to make it the right lie. Karpov tightens on the smoke handle. Germans love front on. When the unexpected enters from an odd angle, traverse lags, humans with it. He'll show where habits are strongest, move where they are weakest. Through the hull, a clean step up in German gears, the half-second torque lag of a crest. That's his tick. He yanks. Canisters drop with hollow thunks. White billows bloom and skew right, crosswind hooking them into a diagonal. Not a wall, but stripes. Their outline smears in bands, flashes in slices, strobing tank and whiteness. Less concealment than broken rhythm. Karpov grins without humor. Broken rhythm is a weapon. He counts 3, 2, and commits the next heartbeat. Periscope view chops between white and wheat. Through bands, Katya glimpses a higher movement, front right, vision slits, round cupola face. The German turret mid-turn, then stopping, fronting neatness, waiting for the expected shape. A glint on a road wheel, sprocket bevel bright. She wants to shout distance. All numbers feel like lies. She holds them anyway and trades volume for certainty. Ivan tenses hands on Karpov's count. He must climb out at a crooked angle, show one thing, become another. The first slip whispers underfoot. He commits before smear becomes scream. The lip comes up, dust jumps against his block. Smoke licks his throat, glass stings his eyes. He blinks, world doubles, snaps back. He will climb blind through a strobe and trusts weight where sight falters. Karpov leans into glass. The German turret smells them through smoke, moves a degree, then two, barrel patient as a finger. He can hear the other commander, hold, hold. He is about to write too many commands for his own crew, turn, climb, lie, become. He feels the German's hull begin its push over the ridge. Both are mid-decision, only one can be right. He chooses to force the other to hurry. The smoke smears, a gust pulls a window open. In it, the German turret turns their way, commander visible for a blink, gloved hand on the rim. The long 75 is steady, not hunting, but asserting. For a heartbeat, Katya sees it too clearly, then it's gone behind white. She stares into whiteness and wills one more second of veil. The next second will be movement. Karpov raps twice on steel, hard. He consigns caution to the ditch and spends it. They drop like a stone slid under a table, nose first, horizon a tan band, then a strip of wheat. The gully is shallower than it looked, rim scalloped by hooves and runnels, enough to drown the hull, but leave the turret a dome if they're careless. Ivan eases the stick. The clutch coughs heat, dull as singed canvas, engine gone hoarse. Up top, the German sticks to doctrine, gun forward as he repositions. Muzzle flash absent, both sides. Silence becomes signal. One tank shaping angles, one hunting a phantom. Karpov yanks a release cable. Chocks clatter. Smoke spits oily white-gray. The crosswind leaning it into a wedge that leaves a bright gap on their rear quarter, exactly where thin side plate would show if they climb too high. The periscope sweats. Katya's breath fogs glass. Her knuckles are white on the frame as the smoke smear widens. Useful and treacherous in the same breath. If the German reads drift, he'll swing to the reveal. Bearing 8-5, no, 9-0, he's... Katya's voice cracks. The intercom salts it into static. She hammers her headset tighter, bites down on panic. The cupola slit goes milky, then a clean line opens where Karpov least wants it, and in that line, road wheels like coins in a row. He wraps the turret ring with his flashlight butt. 2 left, 1 forward. Rhythm cuts where wires can't. The tank obeys, pivoting a fraction to sit along the lip and show a sliver that looks like retreat, but keeps the glacis a wedge. Angle is now the only math he trusts. The first ricochet arrives as a flat smack, a slapping kiss against the driver's block. White-green flashes in Ivan's skull. A fleck of spall skips like a hot fly. He jerks, breath hisses, vision goes snowblind. He blinks through smear. The tank crawls on memory and slope. "I can't," he starts. The intercom chews it into rasp. His hands hold the sticks anyway. He lets habit steer until sight returns. The German walks rounds in with discipline, dust flicking in arcs along the lip, the KWK-40 silent and hungry between impacts. Heat makes his hull breathe like a stalking beast. Katya calls, "Wheel pattern, 6, no, 8, right ridge," and hits the scope to pin a shimmering form her stomach doesn't believe. She keeps bearing numbers moving because moving numbers keep fear from taking the channel. Karpov calculates where their silhouette must be on his glass. Crosswind is erasing their blind. The German sightline rides the gap. Predictable would be to drop deeper and run. He taps, 2 left, 1 forward, then a long hold, bait. He wants the German greedy on the crest, belly light, turret mid-correction. He draws him to where doctrine falters. He chooses to hold on the lip and turn their profile into a hook. The clutch skids as Ivan holds them half on, half off, making an almost profile that is not quite. The lip gives, crumbly soil slumps. The left side dips too sharp. He feathers it, pulsed neutral steer to spare plates, counting 1-2 with his heel. Hot oil threads the cabin, a warning curled in air. They cannot dance long. He extends the now by control, not luck. Katya cracks the hatch a sliver. Cooler air knifes in, wheat dust gritty, iron tang rising off their own machine. The German's silhouette becomes a little truer, edges less mirage. She envies the clean geometry of his turret, hates the predictability of that confidence. He's angling front on, Wind drags the last word away. She clamps her jaw and keeps the numbers honest. A second slap crazes the vision glass into puzzle pieces. Ivan trusts taps over sight. He digs the right stick, lets the left run. Brittle grass roots snap under the track. Somewhere above, a machine gun sweeps. Friendly infantry pinned by fire that won't matter in this bowl. No distraction is coming. The only interruption will be their own. He leans into it. Heat shimmer doubles the Panzer. Two shadows slide over each other like misprints. Karpov takes the mean between them and commits to where greed will crest. He drums fingers once, nerves, shuts his eyes, and opens them clean. "Hold your mark," spoken low in steel, traded for the shape of his tone. He needs the next second to belong to surprise. The wind veers. Smoke that betrayed now licks back into the gap, slides a merciful fold across their rear quarter. A moving curtain, not whole, but enough to hide a twitch. Karpov sees the stagehand tug the rope at the wrong second for the other actor. Not enough to hide a tank, enough to hide a stick. He spends it. "Now," he says, and the line breaks, but the tap, two fast lefts, carries. Ivan puts in a shallow surge. The bow presses the lip without crossing it. Dirt avalanches, wheat roots crack. The hull angle changes by degrees, offering a fuller flank, then reel. The Panzer, faithful to training, traverses to square his long line. Traverse motor hum is imagined, but its rhythm is visible in shadow shift. They are pulling the cat's tail to make him turn where the floor is slick. Karpov's now lands as a tap and a boot nudge. Ivan punches left track, eases right. The T-34 slews along the lip into a heartbeat-long suicidal angle. The clutch screams. Heat flares off the bell housing. The smell turns from hot oil to fabric scorching. Plates skim. They are sawing within margins a mechanic would beg them not to use. Katya's periscope jitters. Crosshairs lurch dirt to sky. In the swing, she sees German road wheels sure, 1, 2, 3, 4, unweight as he hits the ridge. Belly flashes for a heartbeat, turret mid-traverse, barrel correcting because the hull is a hair off axis. That's the window they baited. It is impossibly small. She doesn't blink. She can't afford a missing frame. Tiny diamonds of glass in Ivan's lashes scratch when he blinks. Eyes water. Edges go soft. Panic comes with dust. He pushes it into his hands. He can't see everything. He can feel tremors undertrack that spell soil, giving this way, not that. Detail tells him when to hold, when to let go. The wrong micro-tilt would roll a flank into view like a target board. He holds the line like a narrow bridge. Distance collapses from guess to fact. At 200 meters, shimmer lies less. At 100, angle rules. The German's note changes. Gear for crest, lag between shift and throttle reapplication is a breath. Karpov has listened to that lag before. It is weightlessness. He picks deception over retreat. Ram flashes in his mind. He tucks it back. There's ground to weaponize. He needs the German to oversteer to keep gun front and step heavy on a soft lip, no chart marks. Machine gun chatter flares somewhere else, dies. No friendly tracer will rescue or distract. They are alone under this Tartar sky, with wind making choices when it can. Right 30, turret mid, hold. He's showing side plate, Katya rasps, forcing gravel into rhythm. Side plate means fragility in any language. She steadies the tremor by pushing her shoulder into steel. Fear rides the heat. She lets it pass over and keeps her job. Muscle tells Ivan up or down. Code tells him split the difference. He holds so the hull kisses the lip without committing to a shout of silhouette. Every move is a compromise. Burst, breathe, burst, spare the plates. He bites his cheek to put a scream where no one can hear it. The German mounts the ridge like a cat onto a sill, weight forward, gun to sun. He oversteers a hair to keep front on, forgets the ditch's slumped seam by inches. Katya's breath clicks. The periscope steadies. She sees a gloved hand flash on the German rim, the barrel tracking a smoke line that has moved. "Belly!" she gets out. The intercom eats the second belly. One is enough. She taps twice hard on steel, urgency without words. Karpov slams a palm to the ring, a bell, then drags his weight left to nail the slit to the line. If they're late, a shell will arrive into their chest. He chooses to act as if early. The gully kinks ahead, an extra meter of depth like a mouth. In this geometry, it's a trap for the German, not them. Slide along it, let his belly catch a lip, lock a bogey. Side shots they don't have. Damage can be made with ground. Karpov taps for edge, long short staccato. Ivan nudges nose to damp earth he can smell before seeing. Cooler soil hums under track. The tank becomes a hand, palm flat, fingers curled, ready to slide or slap. He puts his ankle over a live animal and promises it one last sprint. The German's barrel swings to own them, muzzle black, promise loaded. Karpov knows that traverse speed by heart, even without the hum. He tries to be where it will be, not quite yet. Wind scours smoke open again over their rear plate. Stage hand pulling wrong. Drop deeper? A clean picture for him. Pop out and run? Invite a hammer onto a slipping clutch. The hardest choice is least dignified. Hug the lip, kiss the ditch. Make him commit to a correction he can't reverse quickly. He picks physics over pride and spends the last clean seconds of their clutch. Tap, 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 left. Edge. Ivan leans into it. The tank tilts, heavy as a verdict. Wheat brushes the fender like fingertips. Diesel grumbles, then holds, Karpov counting torque lag into his heel. For a breath, the German side plate shows full 30 millimeters of confidence. The Panzer driver squares to an illusion, keeping gun front, steers a hair too far, his left track kissing a slumped shelf wrong. Suspension loads awkward, turret momentum works against hull tilt. If a second exists for collision or escape, it is this hinge. And then the gap between gears opens. Intention meets physics and comes up short. Ivan's slick foot rides a clutch that wants to glaze, plates shudder, the T-34 judders sideways. Katya's call dissolves into engine whine. Karpov mouths a number no one hears. Through the slit, German road wheels resolve like a grinding jaw, the long 75 steadying, their own barrel a blind finger. The lie, reload, threat, readiness, thins as smoke kites off east. Sun glints off their engine deck, a signal flare to a gun that doesn't miss twice if given the frame. Karpov raps 3 times, dives into the hatch, shoulder to Katya's to turn proximity into clarity. He jabs a finger at Ivan's shoulder, thumbs the gully edge. The language of rams. Ivan knows rams from yards, instructors barking that steel hates uncertainty, but loves momentum. He also knows their plates aren't for headbutts against a long 75. He feathers throttle to let the diesel sag, then swell, a deceit for the German's ears. Engine note drops, then kicks. He yaws their sloped armor into a wicked slice, a tempting flank if you misread ground. The Panzer crests, belly plate dust shiny, hangs over a thin erosion cut. The seam shows a shade darker. Katya points hard, grabs Karpov's sleeve, abandoning the periscope's arc for urgency that needs touch. Karpov trusts eyes over wires. The German turret commits to a sector that no longer exists. Doctrine perfect when perfect, becomes tether when ground tilts. The other commander believes in armor and length, wants a comfortable chart range. Karpov's counter doctrine is older, crest and belly, feint and knife edge. Tap, 2 left, 1 forward. He tastes iron and spends the sequence that will either untie a knot or tighten it. Crosswind betrays by revealing their rear, then helps by dragging it away. The Panzer's barrel slides, a tail before pounce. Ivan hears traverse change, a faint grind through dust, and counts the beat, 1 for grind, 1 for lag. He lets the clutch go into that gap and dips the nose into the seam. Tracks climb loose lip like fingers to a ledge no one sees from above. His vision block comet-scratched glares. He drives by memory, noise, and the pressure of Karpov's palm. They lurch. The hull presents on paper a mistake, in earth a blade. The Panzer's driver cuts to rake their flank, and in doing so lays belly over the slumped shelf. He can't read the lip. His commander's eyes are on prey. For a second, the world is numbers. 30 millimeters side, 45 sloped, 75 silent, neutral steer bursts counted in heat, distance compressing, silent cannon daring. Karpov denies muzzle velocity its game and forces weight down the channels, charts ignore. Tracks hate crossloads, bogies lock when drift meets hole. He gambles the German will keep gun front and throw a shoulder into soft. Katya's hands become metronome. 60, 50, 45. For brakes. Intercom swallows. She pound taps, steel, now. Karpov leans into a yell that becomes a shove. Their fender fans wheat and dust into the German's face. The Panzer commander makes his first human mistake. Hatch up for 1 breath of real light. A hand on a rim, an eye off a sight. Seconds bleed. Ivan feels a wrong bite, not skid, a snag, rides it into a sideways slide instead of flipping. The German half commits over the shelf, a bogey drops, climbs with forces misaligned. Turret tries to add momentum in a different plane. The second breaks like a plate. Karpov weaponizes silence, throws their hull across the German's nose without a shot, making mass a threat posture. The Panzer braces, drags a toe of brake. Correction tightens the outside run, slackens inside, bad when turret adds its own inertia. Hull yaws, barrel swings past. The commander's view becomes wheat, dust, Soviet fenders swelling. Katya remembers, side damage maims even without pierce. No shot to take, be the shot. She shoulders the ring as if a jolt can carry through metal. Superstition with physics under it. Fenders meet with a grinding shriek. Paint, dust, wheat straw turned to confetti. The German gunner flinches a micro, traverse stutters. Barrel passes their turret, swings toward a rear quarter that existed a heartbeat ago, hits arc limit. The hull must realign. He doesn't get the chance. The starboard idler kisses the ditch edge. Suspension compresses, unweights. Track loses purchase. Gravity takes vote. Ivan, eyes burning, catches the new thing. Hesitation, mechanical. Bow dips, stays too long. Long 75's muzzle jumps. He pours throttle not to smash but to skim, shallow curve intersecting the German's drift, aim to shear skirts and not entangle. Pivot bursts only as spice, then back to forward before plates glaze. Smell mutates, hot clutch, hot men, hot fear. The Panzer coughs dust into its intake. Engine note stumbles. That cough is thunder. Intent stumbles with it. Turret freezes. Barrel becomes question. Katya sees victory as geometry, not romance, angle and stall. The German must unbind hull to lay gun. Either reverse, humiliation, or commit deeper, risk. Both by seconds. 30 degrees, she says, voice choked but clear. Side, showing side. Enough. Karpov pits mass and ground against length and doctrine. He rises to see over his buckled fender. Flank shy, but shy is enough. No ammunition to finish, only posture. If you don't move, we will shove. He tells Ivan to herd, not crush. Ivan's hands cramp. He asks the machine for one more answer. Plates chatter like teeth, threaten to seize. He coaxes a crescent arc across the Panzer's nose toward the ditch, denying straight lines. He keeps the diesel loud enough for theater. Let the German hear power. The last tatters of smoke blow clear, revealing exactly where not to be. He hopes the man in the cupola sees wrong and corrects too fast. The German chooses as predicted. He won't reverse. He guns forward to reset. The starboard track, still sulking from the shelf kiss, rides the lip, tries to climb air, and fails. Industry fails in sound, metal asking earth and getting no. Nose dips deeper, angle becomes fact. Turret slows like thought without blood. The long 75 finally speaks. Down, into dirt. The blast bows wheat, blasts grit into their faces. The shot is confession. The Panzer fires only to fire. The trench it opens touches nothing. Karpov doesn't smile. He spends the last useful pass as theater and gravity. They graze fender to fender again, scrape slow like a door closing. In that contact, enough noise. The German track eases into the ditch's shoulder, threatens to unthread a link. The suspension lifts, sets, and stops cooperating. The Panzer ends not with a roll, but with a tilt that says no to its own intent. The barrel, late a second ago, is early now, aimed at wheat 2 meters left. The commander is a silhouette in a ring with a bad view of the future. Not killed, placed. Karpov holds the urge to claim and keeps the angle. Katya drops her forehead to the cushion, then snaps up. In a grimy vignette, she sees flank plate, flush and senseless, road wheels cocked in a way manuals call unacceptable. He's stuck, she says, a sin to name aloud here. Karpov absorbs it, does not exhale. A stuck tank is still a shell that hasn't fired. He keeps them near enough to threaten, far enough to avoid a neat picture. He feels in his wrists that the clutch has another choice to make. Behind the ridge, an engine note rises, another machine, or nerves. Supporting guns to the north haven't left. They might find this lull. Karpov angles the T-34’s off any likely muzzle line. He listens for approach, for a loader's shout that isn't theirs. He chooses to be a problem, not a silhouette. Silence now must be a wall, not a wound. In the cooled space where choices turn human again, he faces last resorts. Shove the German fully into the ditch and risk stranding with him, or idle teeth bared and wait for abandonment. The diesel asks to stop being asked. The smell of burning paint and churned wheat says time has thickness. He weighs pride in a push against the dignity of stillness and picks function. Ivan offers a word at last. Gear. Question and warning. The chatter is at an edge. One more pivot burst might cost a track. He asks for certainty with the smallest syllable. Wind drops, picks back up, casting their last smoke scrap across the Panzer's cupola like a test blindfold. Katya's hands still. She is lens and record now, the gray-green slab at a shameful angle, a ditch too shallow to forgive. She keeps watch on the long 75's depression. The German's barrel moves again, slow. Servos or shoulders inside claw, dignity back, lay a line on nearest threat at range where even bad shots count. Weight at wrong angle makes everything lethargic. Karpov counts turret ring teeth in the way the muzzle tracks. Half seconds are currency again. He opens his mouth to call the last thing left, and the engine answers first, a tone drop that means it will either leap or lie down. He slams the hatch rim once, go, and Ivan spends the last precision, angles hull to make mass a lever. Steel shrieks as they commit to a close pass. The enemy barrel swings a second too slow. Their world narrows to a vibrating slit of light and dust as skins kiss, fender to fender, bolts singing underfoot. Karpov counts traverse by touch, the cupola's faint whir in beats, while Katya breathes distance, half length, quarter, A scrap of Scherzen flutters against their flank. Ivan feathers right brake, adds a gout of throttle, a brief neutral steer to spare plates, slicing along the German's shoulder like blade on bone. The wind knifes their smoke sideways and silhouettes both in chalk gray for a heartbeat. German numbers bright, their weld scars honest. The long 75 overswings, the driver downshifts to bring front on. That growl is a clock, and Karpov eats its second with a levered shove and a 2-tap and hold for brace low. They nick the front sprocket, close enough Katya sees baked dust twitch on the glacis. She calls road wheel pattern, shimmer wobbles spacing. 3 high. No, 2. The line hisses. Karpov abandons words, raps 3, stop, 1, hold. Absurd to choreograph with percussion under a mute gun, yet beats slip where speech cannot. The Panzer muscles off the crest to recover ground, and they steal feet. Ivan snaps a partial pivot, slews their rear just enough to force oversteer. The German, confident, corrects too hard to avoid the shallow ditch margin no one should touch. His track catches. Wheels hiccup. Steel scrapes slate. Pins rattle where angles disagree. Heavy on outside, light on inner, turret mid-traverse. Physics refuses free shots. Karpov recognizes the wedge from training films and plays it with wheat under his fingers. They scrape again. A skirt tears like paper. The German gunner rides shock. Traverse loses a turn. The long barrel floats past their engine deck by inches, heat ripple making its shadow waver. Another ricochet slaps their rear idler, clang, copper-green spark, and sprays grit across Ivan's block. He blinks through milk and drives by ear, pitch rising on hardpack, softening on loam, sharpening on stone. Karpov keeps their hull 30 off. A silent barrel is shame he won't let distract. A hull can impose will. Smoke thins, a broken curtain that blurs range. Heat stacks distortions. What looks 2 is 1. What looks 1 is half. Katya's eyes water. She blinks grit, keeps bearings moving. 95, 90, 88, flat through tremor. They skim the starboard skirt. Stubble arcs catch sun like burning fuses. The German commander keeps doctrine. Front on, tries to rotate hull and turret as one, trusting the long L-48. The ground refuses. Ditch lips his front. Gully undercuts his back, and in chasing ideal, he offers side to low ground that steals purchase. Now we take his feet, Karpov says, laying words into gears. Attack mobility. He pictures how hull pressure and a crumbling bank tilt a machine half a degree too far. Tilt a Predator and its options collapse, fight badly, or stall. He taps it into Ivan's boots. The driver gives that angle, coaxing with wrists and a foot that feels heat like a dog at his ankle. German throttle comes up and skates dust polished into glass. Nose seesaws. A gap opens. The T-34’s prow slips, wedges. No crash. Compressions. Stubble. Soil. Skirt ping. Suspension groan. Leading road wheels ride past line, bite nothing. Weight shifts. Rear idler lifts. Slack finds sprocket. Miss seats. World lurches. Turret glides half a second behind. He powers out. Snarls higher. Digs deeper. Stuck turns truthful in a breath. Karpov denies relief entry. A stuck enemy still kills if you gift a flat. He orders a slide along the shoulder, their hull 30 off any line his muzzle might own. Hold low, he's low, Katya whispers, code for depressed sight. Stay short, off his overtrack, keep him guessing. They pivot on a coin. 2 seconds, breathe, 2 seconds. Plates shudder. The engine stays ready but spared. Ivan listens for infantry, for another tank's approach. The broader fight hums at the edges, irrelevant until it isn't. The German commander makes one last clean move, swings turret to the spot where their last scrape suggests they'll reappear. Karpov works opposite, withdraws a meter, offers absence, returns on a different line. The thin smoke blurs the moment silhouette shifts. The German sight hunts ghost. In that junction of attention and misdirection, the duel ends not with detonation, but with intention denied. They let the Panzer settle, a track askew, one side sunk, turret at a useless azimuth. The engine idles low and furious, breath caged. Karpov keeps his own idle heavy, message plain to any eye over wheat. We are here. We did not back away. This space is ours. He listens for another approach, a loader's scream from somewhere else, any hint that private war turns public. He chooses to be weight more than noise. Katya lifts her forehead from cooling glass, snaps back into the view. The enemy barrel points at a patch of wheat 2 meters left, as if taking aim at memory. Her fingers uncurl from bearings and press flat to turret steel where Karpov's taps still ring. She knows reports will be calmer than truth, phrases like forced immobilization and denial of axis standing where her heart pounds. She breathes once, names their state aloud like an oath. Cold barrel, a fact that has been their burden and their blade. Ivan eases his heel off the clutch, listens for the burnt sugar hint that means trouble later. He gives the engine a small feed and waits for the reply to soothe him. He counts pivot bursts left before risk becomes loss, gullies left before grease cools, and he can peel his boot off in one piece. His hands still vibrate with the fight transmitted through sticks. Habit keeps his palm on control. Wind freshens from the west, tugging the last smoke away to reveal a tableau. A Soviet tank angled with intention, a German tank pitched at a bad truth. Dust lifts in light sheets, carrying the smell of hot engines and crushed wheat. In that smell, Karpov hears the physics that chose them, not weapons, but angles, not thickness, but ground. Somewhere south, a battery reloads. North, a truck backfires. East, a field telephone crackles with someone else's crisis. None of it intrudes. The German does not try to reverse. He knows, Karpov thinks, the edge he's on, the cost to move under eyes no longer fooled. There is no cheer, no ribbon, just breath and heat, and the horizon not moving. Karpov looks not at the enemy, but at the gully that saved them, at the lip that took a track, at wheat beaten down into riding wind, will erase. He wants to mark it with a line and finds only practical words. Watch left, conserve fuel, drink water. A fly lands on Katya's scope rim. She flicks it away, offended by the normal. Her eyes sting less. She tastes oil and dust and victory that refuses theater. The barrel is still a black finger pointing nowhere useful, declaring purpose even mute. She understands the paradox. An enemy believed he could speak because he always has. A friend acted because he had to. Ivan opens and closes his jaw till his ears pop, clearing the ricochet's ghost. Through scratches and filth, he sees outlines move in the German's house of armor, ghosts through visors. His hand stays on the stick. No trust, only readiness for ground's next trick. The T-34 idles with a cold barrel. Karpov counts 5, then 10, time enough for adrenaline to step back. He hears a track clack far off, friend, foe, irrelevant for this beat. We hold 30, he says, flat. If he tries, he leaves the verb blank. The crew knows the rest. They listen to the wind as smoke thins over a halted enemy and refuse to move first.